Hello everyone, welcome to Tactica, Imperialis and to today's video. Today is episode 78 of Adeptus Podcastus. I apologise for my absence last time. As Rem explained, I had no Wi-Fi. I'm kind of borrowing my parents at the moment to do this. So yeah, thank you people who lost or stole my router. So, joining me as always is Remleiz from 40k Theories.
Hello everyone.
And our special guest this week is a name that many of you will know, either from YouTube in general, or perhaps more particularly from If the Emperor Had a Text-to-Speech Device. Ladies, gentlemen, xenos of all ages and everything in between, I give you the voice of Eldrad Ulthran himself, Fredrik Knudsen.
Surprise!
Indeed, quite the surprise. So yes, we've got a Cybertech Inquisitor, a Tau, and an Eldari in the same room, and I think that's the first time that's happened.
I don't know. Is it that surprising that Eldrad would end up speaking with such a motley crew? He'll it's like it may be abnormal, but if you saw him in the same room, you'd be like, oh yeah, he's up to something. All right.
Accurate.
I mean, he did have dinner with Fulgrim at one time, didn't he? So,
and then tried to kill him.
Excuse me? This I didn't know.
I did a lore video on Eldrad a week or two ago. You're welcome to go and watch it and find it on my channel. Basically, at the start of in the Great Crusade, before the Horus Heresy started, Eldrad, in an attempt to stop the heresy happening, because screw the Cabal, went and met Fulgrim on a Maiden World in an attempt to warn him off. Unfortunately, Fulgrim had been corrupted by the Slaaneshi Layer-Blade, and Slaanesh hates it.
I do know about this. Continue.
In which case, Eldrad said, right, there's no reasoning with him, and tried to kill him, and then Eldrad killed a Wraith Lord and an Avatar and virus-bombed several Maiden Worlds in retaliation, so that plan went stellar.
Hilarity ensued.
Well, more accurately, virus bombing ensued.
Same thing.
To be fair, the whole point was heading off a force that nobody really understood at that point, though, right?
At the time, yeah, because the Cabal was of the opinion that Horus had to win the heresy in order to wipe out humanity and then itself, whereas Eldrad thought, no, that's a stupid plan. We need humanity as a firebreak to save the Eldari and the galaxy from being overrun by chaos, which was the entire point of why he wanted the Loyalists to win.
So basically, like my strategy in Stellaris every time.
Just throw someone else under the bus to save yourself.
Yeah, it's just like, all right, I'm going to leave you right there to act as a buffer.
Buffer states, yeah, about right.
It's like, I'm not even going to vassalize you. You just stay there.
Yeah, you be a nice pathetic buffer state, eat the damage, and I'll bring in my Doom fleet behind you. Right.
You will be Belgium.
Oh, right. In the news this week, a absolute cacton. I think the only place to start, really, is to start at the end and work backwards, because we just had Nova Open Studio Preview.
Yes,
Oh, wow.
Quite a lot of stuff here. It's quite the rabbit hole to go down. Sorry, I had to
thank you. Thank you.
Well done.
You were looking. You were just looking and waiting for an opportunity.
I actually was, yes. I'll admit it.
Yeah, normally Rem comes up with easy, good jokes on top of his head, but sometimes he has to plan, and that's one of them. So, first off, we'll start with 140 cases. That's
like, that's how I do everything, right? Is like, that's the plan, is I'm not actually clever. I just have a lot of time.
Just as planned.
That's the plan. There is no plan.
All according to Keikaku.
Indeed.
So, as I said, starting us off with 140,000, since that's what 90% of you will be here for, we had the first step forward in the Psychic Awakening plot line. We didn't get a lot here. Well, we got a trailer that told us next to nothing, aside from the fact that some Inquisitor had an Eldari rune in their hand, suggesting that humanity's and the Eldari's fates are tied together. Tell us something we don't know. Eldrad's known that since M29, do keep up.
Specifically, the rune was the rune of the Banshee.
As it happened, yes, and that led on to the fact that they revealed a Howling Banshee plastic miniature. So all of you people harping on when the Space Marine Codex came out, we need plastic aspect warriors, stop it with the Space Marines! You got your plastic aspect warriors. You can calm down for 5 minutes now, thank you.
I mean, technically we've had plastic aspect warriors for a while, considering, the dire Avenger kits.
Our Avengers. Yes, but now you've got more, so for 5 minutes at least until you're waiting for the next one, pipe down. Just for now.
I want your Dark Reapers!
Should have been warp spiders. Anyway, so the Psychic Awakening itself is a new campaign series. I suspect that these are going to be akin to the Vigilus campaign, where they're going to be narrative books that give extra rules for the factions that are involved. Every faction will be getting rules. Space Marines, Chaos Marines, Eldari, Drukhari, Harlequins, Deathwatch, yada yada yada, including the Adeptus Sororitas. So this series isn't going to be a quick flash in the pan, because we learned also at Nova that the Sisters aren't coming out until November. So this is going to be a good thing that goes on for a while, and it will affect every faction, even the non-psychic ones, such as Tau, Necrons, and Knights, unless they get Knight. Oh god, Psi Knights could be a thing, oh god. Mechanicus, and so on. So every faction will get something, we don't know what yet. And we also haven't got any idea of where they're going to start, or what the Psychic Awakening is, aside from, what its name implies it is. So
Tau Psych is confirmed.
I mean, they say there will be plot threads that have enticed fans for decades will be resolved, so I'm holding out for the secret of the Ethereals, please. Champions new and old rising to the fore, and staggering revelations. I put that in air quotes just because it'll take something quite drastic to stagger Remedi at this point.
They reveal who,
as we will get to later in the novel section.
I'll say the revelations will be like they finally reveal who the primogenitor Primarch of the Blood Ravens is.
Now that would be staggering.
Turns out it's Gilliman. Really? Well, bugger.
What really interested me was in the trailer they were talking about sort of the geography of the galaxy, and I feel like that's something that doesn't get talked about a ton in 40K. Like, you have your localized regional things, but the grand scale of the galaxy isn't always talked about because the borders shift so much. Like, it's very amorphous. But this appears to put a hard line somewhere in the galaxy, because you have... Yeah,
the Great Rift has been a thing since 8th edition dropped about 2 or so years ago. The Great Rift has been a thing for a couple of years now.
Okay. Yeah, because...
But,
go ahead.
But they haven't really had a chance to flesh anything out. So we know where the Great Rift goes. We know roughly what it's like on both sides, but they've not locked anything down. But I really want to see war zones in Imperium Nihilus, because we've never been there. We've never been there except for 10 minutes at the end of the Devastation of Baalbuk. That's literally it.
Gotcha.
So, and because of the warp storms that have popped up everywhere, Ghazghkull's now seemingly able to teleport through temporally shifting warp storms. That's a thing. You've got the new Tauth Fourth Sphere of Expansion. We don't know where that's gone. Well, we know where it went, but we don't know where on a map it went. And with all the new changes, they haven't had a chance to flesh it out yet. So you're right; they haven't got a chance to really lock that geography in.
Yeah, that's and this is actually something I wanted to ask that I wasn't 100% sure of. Can the Imperium construct devices that can produce a Geller field?
Isn't that what all their warp drives do?
Yes, but I was under the impression that they have lost a lot of the technology to create spacefaring vessels. Like, basically, they
can still build ships.
Okay.
They can't. I don't think they can build Glorianas, like the Eternal Crusader anymore. But they can build corvettes and cruisers and stuff, because otherwise the Imperial Navy will be dead in 10 minutes.
Yeah,
flat.
that was always something. I think someone must have given me a bad bit of information a long time ago, because they said all the ships that they have, that's all they're ever going to have, and I'm like, Jesus Christ! The loss of a ship is just devastating.
I mean, with some ships, that's true. So if they lost the Glorianas or the Emperor-class battleships, because one of those blew its warp core in the Hive Fleet Behemoth battle.
Yes.
And that was a huge deal.
I do actually... I know some of these bits of lore. It's just very disconnected.
Yeah, that's true. It's amazing how much you do know, and then when you actually have some people who can thread it together, the amount of links you start making in your head is just bananas.
The lore masters are absurd.
I was going to say it's like 6 degrees of
Remez.
6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, isn't it? In a way. Are you aware of that, Michael?
I'm aware of the link,
okay,
yes, and 6 degrees of separation in general as a concept. But if we move on slightly, I'm going to slightly rush because we're on a clock because there's so much news.
Let's go.
we have another Primaris character and a presumed suggestion that they will be the next supplement. So, the Raven Guard are coming, and they got another upgrade for their chapter master. Kayvan Shrike has been primarisized, or primarized, or whatever you prefer to say.
And he looks like Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man 3.
He looks like a character from XCOM 2.
Yes!
I see that. So yes, Chapter Master Shrike has crossed the Rubicon. Apparently that 60% death rate or whatever it is doesn't seem to be a problem anymore from when the Calgar process happened.
It's fine, he's got plot armor.
We've got our first Beaky Primaris, although he's not wearing his hat. Although I have seen someone Photoshop the helmet onto the head, and it looks a lot better when you do it. We've got our first jump pack named character for the Primaris, and as much as some people don't like the new jump pack, I'm kind of cool with it. And also, he's instead of just having the head of the Kievar Raven he killed, he decided to keep its wings and its foot just for good measure. And also, he's now got actual talons on his feet, because of course he does. So yes, that is Kayvan Shrike. I don't really know what else I can say about it, because this model has been very divisive.
Yeah, I mean, I think it looks a bit too busy, personally, with all the pouches and the grenades and the tassels and the purity seals. It just looks a tad over-designed. So, I mean, what's up with the, I think they could have done a lot more by putting a lot less shit on him, if that makes sense.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
I
think there's a... Uh-oh.
I know what this reminds me of.
Oh, no.
This reminds me of... Oh, no. What's his name? The comic artist who invents new muscles and adds pouches onto everything. I'm having a terrible moment. One of his drawings became a meme recently with the terrible Captain America drawing where his chest is, deformed.
Is it Rob Liefeld?
Rob Liefeld, thank you. It's...
Hang on a minute.
He looks a little Rob Liefeld-y.
Look at Shrike's chest for a second.
Yeah.
The Aquila. That's a bird skull on the Aquila, not a human skull like is on every other Aquila.
Yeah.
Or is it just
No,
me?
I'm seeing that too.
I'm pretty sure the Raven Guard commonly do that anyway. It's just their version of the Aquila.
Oh, alright, fine. I'll shut up. You see, this is why we have Remleiz. He knows this stuff. Also, they've got that actual, wings, and look at his left shoulder pad in one of the sub-pictures. You can see it's a raven, it's a bird skull with, Dark Angel-style wings on it as a transfer, which is interesting.
Raven Guard Dark Angel successors confirmed. that's new revelation as they were talking about earlier. But it turns out they're part of the Unforgiven. Everything in Horus Heresy is a lie.
We got... yeah, So the only thing I will say in addendum on Shrike is this makes me think that every named character not already in plastic is going to go Primaris as the supplements come out. So Vulcan Hestan, Darnath Lysander, possibly Pedro Cantor. I don't know if the Crimson Fists are in the main codex. Maybe Helbrecht if they do a Black Templar supplement, or Grimaldus. We've also know we're getting the Iron Hands character. So I think all the named characters are going to go Primaris as their supplements come out, is my guess, to get them out of Resonant into plastic.
I'm scared of what they're going to do to Dante, because I do not like that jump pack personally, so if they give that to Dante...
It looks very...
Well,
looks very custom Robo-y.
Yeah.
The jump pack is associated with the Vanguard Marine, so Dante wouldn't get that one, because that's the Vanguard
he'd get
one.
The fat one with the astronauts, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he'd get the one that the
That's
Inceptors
it. I
have.
forgot what it calls. I just call them astronauts.
Yeah, the one-barreled one. Yeah. So I think we'll see what they do, but obviously Dante's not going to be included in this update, and they've had a chance to do him, but didn't, because he came out before Calgar crossed the Rubicon. So we'll see, I suppose, with Dante and co. Moving on, we got some Necromunda. I haven't had a chance to watch this trailer, but...
It seems to be implying something akin to a Chaos cult or something about the Lord of Flesh and Sinew is coming.
Something terrifying is coming, and even Stubber's Grit and a cool Mohawk won't get in its way.
Yeah, and in the trailer, at the end, you get to see this outline of this huge, monstrous thing, like this humanoid in shape, but just looks like some big possessed thing, I suppose. So it could be referencing Scavies are coming. The mutant faction, Or it could be Chaos Cults.
That'd be cool. And if you look at the trailer itself, there's a big red skull over the Helmore sign. I don't know if that logo means anything to you.
I think that's a new one. Because the Scavies didn't really have any sigils. Same with the Ratskins, really. The thing one it did have was the Redemptionists, because it was basically more or less the same as House Cawdor.
But they're Cawdor, aren't they?
Not quite, no. Yeah. Cawdor...
Oh, yeah, sorry. They're in Cawdor's... They're in... Cawdor... Cawdor is in their pocket. That's it. I was trying to work out how to phrase that.
Yeah, Cawdor basically follows the Cult of the Redemption, essentially.
In secret.
Yes, in secret.
Well, in the city in the background, like, do we know... Well, it's, like, we know what city that is, right? Do we?
We suspect, because of the Helmore sign, that's Hive Primus of Necromunda.
Okay.
Because Helmore holds sway over Hive Primus most of all. But it could technically be anywhere else, because Helmore is the planetary governor.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Primus is the planetary capital, so it would make sense for it to be there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Then we got some Middle Earth with some Rohan terrain, a Saruman, who, by the standards of what some of the Middle Earth miniatures have been of recent times, I particularly think of Dirtface Legolas. The Saruman model's not bad, particularly the one on foot. I like the one on foot with the Palantir, and also someone painted the Eye of Sauron onto the Palantir. That's quite cool.
I'll be honest, I like that kind of Rohan cottage thing. I like that.
They're incredibly modular, flexible, scalable. I can see they're working in Sigmar, actually. But we'll get to Sigmar. I have a lot to talk about, because I wasn't here last episode to talk about it. Now I'm going to talk about it. Brace yourselves. So Warcry is getting a Monsters and Mercenaries expansion, which is exactly what it says it is. So we're going to be adding Mercenaries, and you also go on monster hunts to hunt down Chimerae with your warband or whatever, because that's fun and dangerous. Yay.
So...
and then we got to the actual Sigmar release. These guys have been built up over the last few weeks.
Spoiler, it's not Tomb Kings.
It's the spiritual successor to Tomb Kings. The Ossiarch Bone Reapers. Is that right? Yes, the Ossiarch Bone Reapers. Which is good because Os is to do with bone in a lot of Latin-based languages, so I appreciate the pun. And these guys, I have mixed feelings, because... they're clearly partly, in some ways, taking some cues from all sorts of places. Their Mortek Crawler is a Screaming Skull catapult with centipede legs.
And it's
it
adorable.
Looks absolutely ridiculous and over the top, and I kind of love it for that. It looks like
it's so cartoony it works.
No, it looks like if H.R. Giger made Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah.
That makes sense. You've got the Necropolis Stalkers, who are Tyranid warriors wearing Drakari armor, but also undead. And they're really interesting in the lore, because the way the Ossiarchs work is that they're, instead of being just like, oh, you are undead, I raise you, you fight, they're stitched together by Nagash by hand in order to form these elite legions. So they're sort of his answer to Stormcast.
They're Frankenstein.
Yeah, in some ways. And these guys are made of exactly 4 souls, because they have 4 faces, and they can change their personality and fighting style mid-battle as a result.
That's pretty metal.
That's pretty cool.
That is really metal.
Yeah, you've got the Mortis Priesthood, which is the guy with the massive floaty scythe, also sucking spirit into a flask. Can't even tell what that is. Which is a nice way of building on these old necro priests. I've forgotten their name for Tomb King. It's been so long.
This is just my office mug.
We got the Cavalos Death Riders, some of the coolest cav I've ever seen. I love that cav, because Black Knights look a bit derpy, and just change the riders for vampires, and I have my new Blood Knight conversion.
I love the fact that one of them's riding basically a rhino.
And one of them's riding a bird.
Well, it could be a hippogriff.
Yes, that's more accurately what it is, yes. And then the man himself, the Mortarch, Orpheon Catacros. This miniature
What was it that Oculus Imperius said about him? He's his new bone daddy or something?
Something like that. Anyway, lore-wise, this guy is a new Mortarch, so he's one of Nagash's top generals alongside Lady Olinda, Manfred von Karstein, Neferata, and Arkan the Black. Many of those names you should know if you're all fantasy people. He was trapped in the Storm Vault of Lake Lethis and was revealed and freed by Olinda during the Forbidden Power expansion. And now he's out to claim the Tithe of Bones and inflict death on everything in his way. Also, he's got a really cool set of rules. It's not mentioned here, but one of the coolest things about him is he's got bodyguards, and you actually have to fight through them to get to him. So at the start, he's quite weak in combat, then you kill his guards, and suddenly you're fighting like a Scarbrand sort of character who gets better as you hurt him, and he's a monster. So, yeah.
I just want to say, I really like the fact that the bodyguards, at the very least, have this nice samurai motif.
Yeah. The sort of the art style is like, you pointing out the samurai stuff, I can see the inspirations from the Tomb Kings in there as well. So it's a really interesting cultural blend brought together, but also being completely unique.
Basically, ancient Egyptian samurai.
It really does. It's I was wondering about that. I think it's purposeful because the whole point of this army is that it's undead from all of these different sources. And so they're just going to take the influences from whatever they have. They're like undead Borg.
Yeah, so it's sort of, as the article describes them, they are bespoke war constructs.
Yes.
With harvested bone and given the soul animus of warriors and heroes. So obvious that you'll have the inspiration of Nagash designed them. These aren't just skeletons that were ripped out of the ground. These have been handcrafted by either Katakros or Nagash or whoever.
So the point, what you're trying to tell me is that bulge was purposeful.
I think Nagash got the wrong idea when he heard the term boner.
Oh my fucking god.
I've had a long day. Don't push me.
You invited me, motherfucker.
Oh, I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to Remleiz. I'm talking to Remleiz because he does this all the time. Oh, God, what have I signed up for? Anyway, carrying on. So Warhammer Legends is getting a 40k version with points. So all those miniatures in the indices that were like, wow, they didn't make it in the Codex. Fine. They didn't make it in the Codex. They've been bunked off to Legends with points so you can still use them, but they'll never be updated again. They're also adding points to the Sigmar Legends, which is really good, because so I can actually play with my Dark Elves faction properly, because I have a Malekith miniature, and I have a Marathi miniature, and I have a giant pile of Dark Elves, and I can actually play them properly, which is nice. So yeah, that's a good update. We got our first screen caps and drawings from, well, not first, but some of the first from Angels of Death, the animated series that's being worked on with the team there.
Oh yeah, I was actually pleasantly surprised when I found out that Jez Goodwin's doing the concept art.
Yeah, I did hear that. Yes, I saw that, yeah.
For those of you unaware, Jez Goodwin was basically the guy who designed pretty much every single Space Marine model from like the 1990s onwards.
Yeah, he's kind of like second only to John Blanche in terms of 40k designs, if even second to anyone. Because he was involved in a lot of the old Eldar miniatures as well, I think.
Yeah. Well, pretty much every model from second edition was Jez Goodwin, let's be honest.
God, those stills do look really good from the animated series.
I'm interested to see if they decide to colorize it in the end, because I haven't really kept up with the design process. So whether they decide to colorize it,
no, it's colorized. Yeah, because that second screenshot, the characters wearing like a dark red.
Maybe it's my laptop being awful. I'm not sure I can quite make that out. But yep, I'll trust you on that. I just might have a bad laptop or a bad eyesight.
Yeah, it's just very washed out color.
Very muted, yeah.
Yeah, that's...
Which is appropriate for 40k, let's be honest. Unless you're going for second edition, which is known for being everything's red.
Noise Marine.
Yeah, that's it.
And then, of course, to finish for Nova, we have news of the Adeptus Sororitas army
God,
set.
they look so cool.
The Codex.
It does.
Yeah, I'm gonna be quiet because I have less of a high opinion of this as everybody else. Go.
Okay, Fred, do you want to take it away?
Oh no, I just really like the design. I'm a big fan of, because these are miniatures, right? They need to have very simple. I'm a fan of the very simple geometric shapes and structures, and the way that they painted them as well. It works really well for a miniature. Maybe it looks a little goofier up close, but like when it's on a table, right? It's actually in person. These things are going to pop.
Oh, definitely. So the Sisters of Battle Army set, you get 25 models plus a copy of the limited edition Adeptus Sororitas Codex, which comes out in November this year. So everyone starts saving up your money now.
Do we think that sister on the army box is going to be the one on the cover? Because if it is, that's the most passive model or art piece we've ever seen on the front of a codex.
I'm not sure,
they're
to
in
be
the midst
honest.
of battle
I think this will be the
stuff.
cover for the limited edition artwork, but I think for the standard edition it'll be more like, that more commonly seen picture of the, the Sister of Battle pointing a gun, at something off screen.
Yeah, possibly, though we'll see. We also saw in between this episode and the last, the Sister Hospitaller miniature, and yeah, I really like that miniature. I've said all along that I have no problem with the Sisters miniatures. I think they look really good, but I'm never going to buy them. They don't do anything for me in terms of, you must go out and buy them. And I'll be completely honest with you both, when I saw the Penitent Engine model, I thought it was the old one.
I thought this new version of the Penitent Engine looked a bit small, to be honest. Like, it seems a lot shorter and, a little bulkier maybe, but a lot shorter. Because like the older one was like this big, this big gangly thing with like us arms whirling around and shit. And that,
yeah, because the actual hull and legs are shorter than at the same height as the person entombed within it, which is definitely a change. But yeah, it reminds me so much of the old one, but that's a good thing because it's an update so subtle that me, an idiot, missed it. But it's also going to be so much easier to work with.
Also, isn't it pronounced Hospitalier? Or am I just crazy?
I think it's double L. I always thought it was Hospitalier, but people have harped at me that it's not Hospitalier because it's a double L, not Li.
Okay.
It's just
so yeah,
40k being 40k.
Yeah, for a long time I have said Hospitalier, and I'm willing to say Hospitalier.
I think it's because it's named after the Knights Hospitaller or something.
Yeah, I say hospital because it's just
Hospitaller.
Correct.
Anyway.
Yeah. And we also confirmed that the plastic cannoness that's going to be in that box, if you're at Nova, you also got a free cannoness. I hope you're happy. And also her staff says Faith and Fury on it. Not quite Faith and Fire, which is a shame because that would be a really fun
I will
reference.
say, painted, it looks a lot better than the 3D render.
Well, that's quite often the case when you see a 3D render compared to the actual final miniature. Despite the fact that it's not designed on a computer and has the flaws, quote-unquote, of the design process and the fabrication, it always looks better in miniature than it does in render.
Well, like, the render is in service to the physical model.
Yeah.
True.
But I am actually really liking how these models are looking, fully painted. Because with the Repentia, for example, like there was some people oohing and ahhing about them because they weren't too sure. But if they look as good painted as the normal Battle Sisters do, then I think we're not going to have much of an issue with them. To be honest,
yeah, I think
this is very promising. I'll be honest, it's very promising.
I agree. And since we know they're coming out in November now, and I believe the Ossiarchs are coming out in October. That just raises the question of what's dropping when, because we're in it's late August at the time of this recording. It'll be September by this time this video comes out. So we've got to squeeze in all the Space Marine supplements before the Sororitas drop, and we'll probably get the first Psychic Awakening expansion, and we've got 3 upcoming Sigmar books. This is going to be like Broke-Tember, Broke-Tober, and Broke-Vember all in one.
I'm going to take a wild stab and say the Oseoks are going to drop on the 26th of October, just because, it's the last Saturday before Halloween.
That would make a lot of sense.
Just because... That's literally the only reason, because Halloween, spooky, scary skeletons.
Speaking of which, in terms of easy segues, we have a new season of Warhammer Horror coming.
Oh, yeah.
So we have David Annandale, is it? I think. David Annandale has written one, The House of Knight and Chain, which is a 40k novel. We have The Way Out, an audio drama by Rachel Harrison, which I think is the author of the Severina Rain books.
I think the parts of that are already out. I think it's just a collective CD.
Right. Castle of Blood by C.L. Werner in November. And The Watcher in the Rain, wasn't that the one that Alpha was talking about?
It was, yeah.
The Watcher in the Rain by Alex Worley. That will be out in November. And then Josh Reynolds has Dark Harvest for Age of Sigmar, which looks excessively creepy because it's a witch hunter in a swamp with hanging corpses all around. And no, I'm not reading that, thank you.
Can I just point out, going back to Castle of Blood briefly, I love the cover of that. I love how much of, a retro 50s movie poster look it has.
Oh, yeah, it does. And it's got all the little puppets on strings as well. So, well, hands.
No strings to hold me down.
Quite. Then we've got Invocations, which is a bit of a set of an anthology.
So if the previous one looked like an 80s movie poster, this one looks like a Rob Zombie album cover.
Yes. Then in January we have another audio drama, Darkly Dreaming by Josh Reynolds, and then some uncovered but fully titled ones in February and March called The Oubliette, which looks to be 40k. Sepulturum, Sepulturum, thank you. Which looks to be AO. No, it is 40k because it's
40k because it's about the Ordo Sepulturum, which is the order of the Inquisition that studies the zombie plague. It's like we finally get some lore on one of the Ordo Minoris. Fuck for that.
And then
that isn't the Ordo Kronos for once.
Yep, and then Anathemas, which is to do with sort of unexplained deaths in an ancient Astra Militarum tank. Okay.
The tank wants
so
to
it's
eat
a collection of little mini things. Okay, we'll see what that goes with.
I've just now got this image with this tank. It's like one of those. You probably don't remember battle cars, do you?
No.
You're probably too young to that. But that toy, literally, you pull back on these cars, and these cars reveal these huge teeth-filled mouths, and they go like, "Arr, arr." So just imagine this with a tank just munching people. Because I'm weird like that. I don't know why.
So yes, if you're a fan of horror, really then yes, you have something to look forward to.
Sorry, Fred, what did you say?
Oh no, I was gonna say those battle cars are really grotesque.
They are,
as I recall.
Do you remember? Actually, there was a film in 2007 or 8. I think it was a kids' film, Monster House, which was a sort of similar idea, where the house came to life and
I have Google
stuff. I don't remember all of the details.
Oh, what was that Stephen King film that had the killer trucks? The one that AC/DC did the soundtrack for.
Was it Wheels?
Might have been.
Rubber, maybe.
No, I think it had Emilio Estevez in it.
Oh, God. I was thinking of a different movie, I think. But yes.
I'm going to have to look this up, though. This is going to bug me.
Right, whilst you do that... So
apparently the book was actually called Trucks, but the movie was called Maximum Overdrive.
Of course it was. What a terrible name.
Sounds like Michael Bay got his hands on it.
Maximum Overdrive. It's like it's trying to make it sound like a dubstep song as much as possible.
It's Ricochet's new finisher.
Also, yes, just for the people in the comments, I did watch the last episode, and yeah, I did follow.
And Michael's going to finish off the song now.
No, I'm not, because I don't remember it, because we were talking about it an hour ago, and I've already forgotten. Not that I'd do it anyway. I have a reputation to uphold here. So yes, that's not happening, but I did watch it. It was an experience. So thank you very much to Narina for helping out, doing a fantastic job, as always. So yeah, Interesting show. Way too many tangents, but that's what happens when I'm not here to keep order.
How many times did you head desk?
I was actually sat on my settee watching it. There was a couple of sort of moments, but no head desks.
How many facepalm moments then?
A couple, and then a quick skip the cringe when you started singing.
And you have to finish the song now.
No!
That's how it works.
No, I have a reputation to uphold. The comments can't see me as this wacky character. I need to be here to keep order. That's my job, according to the comments.
Fred, quick question. Do you know the What Happened to That Wrestler song by Cultaholic?
No.
Damn. So if you did, I was going to ask you to do a duet with me, but never mind.
No, sorry. My knowledge is very niche and random. Sometimes I'll know something really, really obscure, but then there's another thing that everyone will know, and I'll just have no idea.
Oh, trust me, about 50% of the comments don't know what Rem's talking about, but yes, that's us. That is completely us. We know all the niche stuff. Anyway, speaking of niche stuff and lore, Black Library submissions are open. I think you guys mentioned this last episode, but that's now open.
Yes, we did.
If you want to do that. Aeronautica Imperialis is out. I saw the models firsthand last night at GW. They look very, very pretty, but I haven't had a chance to look at the rules yet, although there is a how-to-play video if you want to watch it, which is nice. What else did we have?
The Custodians have a flying gun.
Yeah, the White Scars, got their golden Keshig, and I think the Blackstone Fortress expansion, Escalation, as well as the new Kill Team starter set are out by the time you're watching this as well. So if you want to get the stuff from that Combat Arena game and those Chaos Cultists, you go nuts.
Tumbleweed.
I was just scanning. One more thing. One more bit of news I think that's quite worth noting is the Siege of Terror. So we're getting novellas as part of Siege of Terror. We're not just getting the 8 novels. We have that now confirmed. They also will not tell us who's writing the Horus Emperor book yet, though, and it will be a while off.
It'll be Dan Abnett. We know it's going to be Dan Abnett. Let's be bloody honest. It's going to be Dan Abnett.
It could. Who are the other 5 that we don't know yet? Because Guy's written one, John's written one, and Gav's written one.
ADB, James Swallow, Nick Kime, Dan Abnett, obviously, that's 4.
Is it McNeil?
No, McNeil's doing the novellas. He's not doing the main novels.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, who is the other one? I can't remember now. I cannot remember who the 8th one is. But yes, we have it confirmed that Graham McNeil will be writing a novella called Sons of the Selenar, following the Shattered Legions heroes, including the Sisypheum, which is Nykona Sharokin, and so on and so forth, which is good to know. And also long-buried secrets with far-reaching consequences, because of course it did. So we're going to find out what was on Luna, which is good, because we know nothing about Luna, pretty much.
The Gene Labs were on Luna.
But yeah, that's like it. That's like all we know. Oh, there was some stuff with the Selenar gene cults. Hang on. The Selenar
the other one's Chris Wright.
Chris Wright, yeah.
Yeah.
Scars guy.
Yeah. So basically, Nick Kime's going to be doing the novel focusing about Vulcan punching things in the throne room. Let's be honest.
Chris Wright will write the one with Jagatai Khan going on a murder spree across the battlefield or hunting down Fulgrim.
Yeah. James Swallow will be doing the Sanguinius one.
Yeah. There is still a coin flip in my head between Abnett and ADB as to who gets to write Horus versus the Emperor, because I could see ADB getting it just as much as I could see Abnett getting it.
I can see where it comes from, but considering how much more of an established author and how Abnett effectively started the series, I can see Black Wright wanted him to bookend the series.
Oh yeah, because he wrote Horus Rising, didn't he?
Yeah. That
would make a lot of sense.
And I think he's also their most critically acclaimed author as well, so they probably want to end strong. That's not to say the other guys aren't strong, but he's probably the strongest author they have, though. And let's be honest, if you want to end a series well, you end it strong.
Oh yeah, because most people will remember how it starts and how it ends, and everything else in the middle is kind of just fluff and faff.
Yeah. And then you have the Dark Angels novels, which nobody should be talking about.
Speaking of novels, I think that's the news. We've been going for 40 minutes and we've just got through the news. Oh,
yeah, I think
God.
the time we should probably jump ahead.
We should move on just for the sake of everybody's sanity.
I'm Killer Keemstar, and let's get right into the news. I can't stand
Or in this case,
him.
out of the news and into some novels.
Yeah.
So, Rem,
So,
you
Michael.
always start the reading. You always start the novel section because you always read something, and I always
Yes, but
don't.
you've had two things to read. I've only had the one, so you might as well start one. I'll jump in, then you do the other one.
Okay, that works. So, I got round to finally finishing Deathwatch Shadowbreaker, which is the Deathwatch novel that takes place on a Tau world. Or, correct, a human world that has been conquered by the Tau, and involves Genestealers. Because it's a Talon Squad novel, it always involves Genestealers. So, basic premise is an Inquisitor who is part of the Black Seed program has gone missing. Black Seed is a thing that was set up in the previous Deathwatch novel or novels, and involves basically creating Genestealer hybrids in order to find a way to beat the Tyranids. That's the entire point of it. And she's gone missing whilst investigating this thing, and it is suspected she's either died or thrown her lot in with the Tau. Turns out she actually has thrown her lot in with the Tau for a bit in order to create Tau Genestealer hybrids as a way to allow the Tau to defeat the Tyranids as well. That's sort of set up, and Talon Squad, led by Leandro Karras of the Death Spectres, who is a librarian who died and was resurrected by Eldar tech, and is kind of intrinsically tied to the Eldar at this point, has to go and get her out. That is the setup. A good 50% of the book doesn't have a fight scene. It takes a long time to get to the big shouty boom boom bit, and I'm not complaining about that at all.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. Remind me, isn't this also the same squad that has a midget Imperial fist?
It is the one with the tiny Imperial fist, the Exorcist, the Ultramarine who is a bit of a prat, and the Raven Guard who is an absolute showboat. Yes.
Are you sure this isn't an anime?
It's the Deathwatch and the Tau. It actually probably could be.
all it needs is Stringstorm's Farsight song playing at the beginning when you open the book.
No, you keep Farsight out of this heresy. You keep Farsight out of this.
That's why you use the Japanese language version of the song. You just need a catchy beat, you know.
So, Talon Squad lands, and they coerce the local rebels against the Tau to help them out, under the impression that they will then be a forerunner to get the Imperium involved to get them back in the fold. That's not happening. It's just not, but they don't let on. They meet the leader, who is supposed to be a bloke, but is actually a old woman mind controlling her brain dead son, because women aren't allowed to rule in this society. Yes, that is also a thing. And they set it all up, and they infiltrate this old prison that the Tau have made their headquarters. And they find the Genestealer hybrids all trapped in a giant Geller field. So we learn that Genestealer cults, and Genestealers in general, cannot communicate or signal the hive mind from within a Geller field.
I mean, that's kind of the point, considering they consider that blocks, the warp.
It does, but it also means that the Tau's communication, they can't just do it. It has to be purely warp-based. There's no extra thing, like, in terms of the synaptic stuff, is purely warp-based, I guess. So, yeah, that's a thing.
Well, it also kind of implies that, like, the point of a Geller field is to keep things out, but it also can, like, keep things in.
Karras' powers don't work whilst he's in this prison, because there's a giant Geller field in it.
Mm-hmm.
They fight their way through, but the Tau and the Inquisitor get away. The Tau commander is a prat, because he's just trying to advance his and his ethereal station, because they were sort of exiled to this backwater world to mind it, and they hate it, or at least he hates it, and the ethereal, he's just helping the ethereal out, in his idea. Anyway, big massive fight scene happens, Lamenter's Dreadnought goes on a tear, some Elysian guardsmen are involved as part of the Talon Squad assets, who are under the control of the Colonel. Yes, the Elysian corporal human commander is in charge of the Death Watch. That's a thing for this squad. But they are all overruled because the mission goes to hell, and another squad shows up, Sigma squad, led by a Black Templar Terminator, who is an asshole, and they rip command as well as take... No, not Sigma squad, hang on. Is it Sigma? There's Talon, then there's the Rogue Inquisitor's own squad, some of whom follow her and some who don't, and then there's this third squad who I'm going to designate the Prick squad, because they're led by a prick who's a Black Templar. Anyway, the Prick squad
Aren't all
take
Black
command.
Templars pricks, though?
This one is a super prick. He's like, I don't care what you think, this is my plan and we're doing it.
So it's a huge throbbing prick, got it.
Jesus Christ.
So they decide to launch an all-out assault because the Inquisitor's prepping to leave with the commander, and it all culminates after being infiltrating and ambushed and pilots and decoys and dropping a building on Space Marines who played dead but actually weren't dead. It all culminates in the hangar with the ship, and it all finishes in a boss fight between the Space Marines and the Tau Commander in a Riptide. Which is pretty awesome.
So it is an anime then?
Kind of. And they rip the Riptide apart one limb at a time, including some psychic stuff. And finally, the Exorcist and Karras, who, by the way, was possessed earlier in the book because he used too much warp power to present himself as getting nuked. I'll come back to that nuke. And then the Exorcist had to sort of quote poetry at him to get him, and with the help of a Farseer to get his mind back in control. It's a bit weird, I'll come back to it. So the Exorcist is like, nope, F this, and smashes the Gellerfield generator. And they defeat the Tau and get the Inquisitor. She's held captive. And then the Eldar show up. This Farseer who's been sort of chiming in Karras' head shows up and says, hey, you're going to give us the Inquisitor now because I saved your life from that demonic possession. And then the Tau Commander shoots her. The Inquisitor, that is. So Karras, in order to preserve the knowledge of this Inquisitor, rips her soul out and stores it within his own. And then he goes with the Eldar, who rip the soul back out again, but let him keep the knowledge, so that they get the Inquisitor's soul and he gets what she knows, and they get what she knows, so that he can go back with the knowledge that he needs and everybody's happy, but the Eldar get the knowledge as well, and a soul, and yeah.
This sounds convoluted.
Oh, it gets worse. The rabbit hole goes far deeper, yet that wasn't even a pun. It just does.
I feel like 40K makes sense right up until the moment that the word soul gets thrown around. That's when things seem to get fucky.
Oh, my friend. You have not even witnessed into the pool of nonsense into which we are about to descend.
Please.
So, in the epilogue, it is revealed that Omicron, who is the Lord Inquisitor in command of Sigma, who is the Lord Inquisitor in command of Talon's squad, is working with a demon. Who doesn't realize he's working with a demon, or maybe he does, in order to achieve his own godhood. That is why he's doing what he's doing. Presumably sacrifice the Tyranids, gain godhood, whatever. It's not quite clear exactly what he's doing for and why, although I'd need to just reread it, I think, to be sure. But that's revealed. Now, here's the twist. That demon is the same demon who possessed Karras about halfway through the book after he got nuked. And that demon is also in a blood feud with the Exorcist, because he was the demon that possessed the Exorcist during the Exorcist's recruitment, because that's the thing that the Exorcists do. They get possessed and then, exorcise it. And the way that the Exorcist did it was by storing his soul in a clone so that the demon couldn't find it, thus exorcising the demon who he had promised his soul to.
What?
This is starting to sound like the opening to Dragon Age.
I told you it was nonsense.
And now I've gone cross-eyed.
Oh, and if you need something else, G-Stealers can take a Tau thermonuclear bomb to the face and not die.
Explain how.
They're cockroaches.
Yep, that's literally the excuse they use. They're like cockroach level tough. They can take it. One G-Stealer survived the thermonuclear bomb, and the Hive Fleet took the entire sector in about a month.
I got better.
But yeah, that's... Oh, man, it sounds like something that an elementary school kid would say on the playground. You're playing, laser gun fight, and one of them hits the other. It's like, I hit you. I have a shield.
Quite. So yes, I'm sure Remleiz in particular has many questions. I should preface this by saying that the Death Watch series itself has always been quite esoteric in terms of, the entire premise is gene stealer cults in order to stop the Tyranids. But, go on, Rem, I'm sure you have questions.
Yeah, what? I think that encompasses everything, to be honest.
So, we've now learned that you can store your soul in a clone in order to become a blank, or a pseudo-blank, which is what this Exorcist does. So that's a thing.
But doesn't that... What?
I mean, so what happened to the clone's own soul, considering clones are created through a biological process? I mean,
I feel like Steve Parker hadn't watched your video when he wrote it.
Well, my video wasn't even out when he wrote that book, but let's be honest.
Yeah, maybe what they did was they created like a second body rather than an actual full-on clone and just put the soul in it and then put it in stasis so that it wasn't walking around with a soul that could be found.
Right. Makes more sense.
I think that's...
it makes more sense. Yeah, in this story, nothing makes fucking sense.
Yeah, we'll gloss over the whole ripping out someone's soul and storing it within your own.
That... I want to understand. I this keeps happening with me and 40K. I want to understand what the fuck is going on with souls, but every time they try to I hear about a new rule about souls, it just raises another 3 or 4 questions.
Yep.
This is some Shang Tsung level shit.
It's like souls are like. I mean, it makes sense when you zoom out and try to understand this from the author's perspective, right? Like, there's so much fucking lore that these people have to keep track of, and this book this writing probably isn't the only writing that they're doing. Like, they have other things on the side, so they can't dedicate all of their brain power to just learning. Everyone works sort of on their own
unless they're sharing a character.
Yeah.
That's the general rule.
Yeah, so, like, Souls, as an author, would be a wonderful Deus Ex Machina. It's
they are a plot device on toast.
What? Yeah, it's like, well, how do they do it? Deadline's coming up. He stored his soul in his own soul. Yeah, there we go. Okay, we're good.
It's science. I ain't gotta explain shit.
It's like, I made lore.
The thing is, like, when you read it, you don't stop to question it. You just think, huh, neat.
Well, yeah, I mean,
and then you carry on, and then you get to this point where you're telling it to someone else, and everybody looks at you like you've got 2 heads.
No, like, I mean, that's the way a good author writes, right? It's like, they won't realize, like, the reader won't realize it's a plot device until, like, they have to actually think about it.
Yeah,
so that, like,
and I will say in general...
well, what that tells me is that maybe their plot writing isn't very good, but they're a very good, like, mechanical writer. Like, their prose is strong, their plot maybe not so much.
Yeah, I read the first Death Watch novel all the way back a few years ago when it came out, and I still remember that book being very good. The character interactions between Talon Squad are excellent. Solarian, the sniper, who is an asshole, is brilliant. Cypher Zed, who is a Raven Guard guy who's like so confident he can take on training bots and not get scratched, is a bit of a jackass, but it works. You have this dynamic of the Exorcist and the Librarian, where the Exorcist is basically there to kill the Librarian when he gets possessed, but rather than doing so, they quote basically Imperial poetry at each other to talk the other down, which is how Karras got his mind back off the demon that possessed him, with some help from a Farseer, who then turned up later, and was also, I think, the one that resurrected him in like the previous novel or something. Yeah. So that all happened. It was good. And the Elysian characters were excellently written. I was very impressed with the Elysians. Just, there's a couple of very 40k plot devices that would only be acceptable as more than a plot device because it's 40k.
The Emperor did
I
it.
can't think of another. Yeah, I can't think of another franchise that could pull that much Deus Ex Machina bullshit out, and nobody minds. Because as much as it sounds dumb, you sort of accept it because this is 40k, and 40k pulls its own strings all the time.
I'll be honest, I was going to suggest Mortal Kombat, but everyone's complaining about that, so...
So, speaking of world-ending events, I believe you were reading something about very grand-scale battles, were you not?
Yes, I was reading through Apocalypse by Josh Reynolds. I'm not going to detail the ending at all because I still haven't actually read the last chapter, but I've read enough of the book to basically give you a rough detail of what happened. So basically...
Shall we need a spoiler section here?
Yeah, there will be a spoiler section because there's a pretty massive what the fuck kind of moment in it.
Okay, I won't put a spoiler section up for Shadowbreaker because that book's been out for a couple of months now. I think that the window of spoilers has passed. But Apocalypse and the book I'll discuss in a minute, spoilers are in effect from now. Go.
Right, so the basic setup of this book is an ecclesiastical shrine world is basically about to be attacked by a massive Word-Bearers Legion force. So the Imperial Fists, White Scars, and Raven Guard are sent to reinforce the world's defences. Now, it seems a bit weird because this shrine world is literally in the back-ass end of nowhere. So it's like, what is the point of it? It's not strategically valuable. Why are they sending, normal Astartes and Primaris Marines from 3 entire chapters?
If we were to pull out today, they would have 2 bases in the middle of a box canyon. Whoop-de-fucking-do.
So basically, as they're reinforcing the defences of the world, which, by the way, there's also Sisters of Battle on the world as well, because, of course there is, it's a shrine world.
Ecclesiarchy.
Yep. They find out why Gilliman sent the Space Marines to this particular world, because underneath the cathedral, buried underneath, well not buried, just in a series of tunnels underneath, is a being called the Anchorite, who was one of the first founding members of the Ecclesiarchy. Now, the Anchorite is a loyalist word-bearer's dreadnought from the time of the Horus Heresy.
I have questions.
Go ahead.
I'll let you finish, but I have questions.
So basically, this word-bearer's dreadnought is the reason why the word-bearers are invading, because they've learned that, oh shit, we still have a loyalist brother who's basically teaching, Lectitio Divinitatis and having it sent to libraries in the surrounding sector, essentially. And
we mean the original one, not the bastardized version that the Ecclesiarchy made later.
Exactly, because on another world, the word-bearers loot and burn this library, and then they pick up this one stack of papers like, it's written in Colchizian. Yeah, so what? So there's a lot of the older text. Yeah, but it's written top to bottom. What? Because that's apparently how Colchizian's right, top to bottom. Yeah, and it was done recently. It's like, oh shit.
Who's writing an ancient Colchizian in M42?
A Colchizian. who calls himself the last son of Colchis as well. Which was a nice little touch. But yeah, so...
I'm reminded of, Indian telemarketers saying that they're Jake from, San Francisco.
Yeah.
I just want to check. I'm assuming this battle basically revolves around a giant fight scene of this massive battle. Are there any other revelations worth sharing since we are in a spoiler
That is
section?
the main revelation. The primary revelation, the fact that Gilliman also knew... Gilliman knew about this word-bearer because he surrendered to Gilliman following Calf because he saw what was happening to his legion and went, no, then this is too fucked up, man. So Gilliman took him prisoner. He was imprisoned during the course of the Siege of Terror. And following the Siege of Terror, he tried to kill himself. And then Gilliman basically went, nah, bitch, you're going in a dreadnought now. No suicide for you. That's explaining why he's in a dreadnought. Which is kind of a bit of a cruel punishment. It's like, you try to kill yourself, you're going in a fucking dreadnought, bitch.
Even in depression, I still serve.
I raise you what happened at Calth as to why Gilliman will F over every word-bearer.
Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, this word-bearer was a founding member of the Ecclesiarchy. He was guiding the Ecclesiarchy from the very first day. And to the point where Gilliman's like, oh shit, what are we going to do with you? We're going to chuck you in a box underneath a cathedral somewhere, put a special code to teach all the cardinal governors. If you get invaded by word bearers, just send us code and we'll know what it means. Which raises a lot more questions like, hang on, so Gilliman was approving the ecclesiarchy? Okay,
And also must have passed this code on to the High Lords to know about, because, he's been dead for 10,000 years.
Pretty much. So it's like, oh, right. Okay, then.
Okay, so I'm going to take this one step at a time. 1. Loyalist word bearers.
Yes.
I count there has been a grand total of 3 of them now. Sor Talgron, no, the guy killed by Sor Talgron, who was in the Crusader host. Arthur Narek, who went on a road trip with Eldrad to kill Aslan.
Yep.
And this guy.
The Anchorite, yes.
So it's not completely unheard of, but given the word bearers purged their legion over and over and over again, in order to thin it of dissidents and so on, it is exceptionally unlikely that someone walked away from the Battle of Calth and just said, you know what, I'm joining you. 2. A word bearer walked up to the Ultramarines Primarch in the middle of the Battle of Calth and he didn't kill him.
Apparently so.
And
well, it might have been after the Battle of Calth. He might have just come like that. I got no weapons. I come naked. It's like I fucked up. I surrender.
Okay, point 2.2.
To be fair, the words he was bearing were really important.
2.2, the Mark of Calth only stops when every word bearer is dead. That is the point of the Mark of Calth. It never stops until every word bearer is dead, if I remember it right.
I mean, technically, he committed suicide and was chucked into a dreadnought, so maybe that counts as him dying.
Yeah, I'll excuse the dreadnoughtification on the fact that he did die in order to be dreadnoughtified. I'll let that one slide.
Well, mostly wouldn't, but close enough, yeah.
3. Astartes was involved in the founding of the ecclesiarchy, and Gilliman must have known about it and let it happen.
Yes.
4. Gilliman allowed the founding of the ecclesiarchy that was based on Lorgar's word.
Apparently so.
And I'm sure there was a 5, and I've forgotten 5. But yeah, Josh, what?
I mean, in fairness, it still makes more sense than, Wild Rider.
I mean, I'm in no position to talk about books being weird. I had Shadowbreaker, but yeah, go on.
I mean, compare it to Wild Rider. The ancient Eldari and the pre-Necron Necrontyr teaming up before the War in Heaven to fight demons of Slaanesh, which is a god that hadn't even been born yet. Because none of the Chaos Gods have been born at this point, apparently, even though they're now fighting against the Chaos Gods which aren't even born yet.
Yeah, Wild Rider was weird as well.
Oh, and there was also the scenes where Ivrain was effectively soul-raping people, but hey, that's another here than there.
I mean, I raise you what Karis did?
No, literally soul-raping them. Literally raping their soul. To the point where they're, collapsed on the floor, and it's like...
How do souls work?
However the
it's
author
science,
needs them
bitch,
to.
I ain't gotta explain shit.
They are
a
very useful plot device if you need them.
But, yeah, the interesting thing though is about this dreadnought, when he learned that the word bearers were invading, initially he refused to fight them. It's like, they have turned from the light, but they are still my brothers, and I will not fight them. But he will not stand in the Imperium's way of fighting against them either.
So he's just going to sit there passively and wait for one side or the other to kill him.
Oh no, he got in a fight in the end, don't worry. But it was interesting to hear about, because he actually took part in the battle initially, Battle of Calth initially, and basically saying, initially, it seemed like the right thing, blood for blood, like for like, the Ultramarines, laid waste to Monarchia, so it's only fair that we do this to Calth in retaliation.
Even though it was the Emperor that did it.
Yeah. Well, actually, the Emperor ordered the Ultramarines, but the Ultramarines still did it, to be honest.
Okay, yes, you're right.
So it's interesting to see, how word bearers initially justified themselves into doing this, and then the goddess was saying, hang on, with what demons? What blood sacrifice? Guys, this is a bit not too keen on this. Fuck this, I'm out, y'all. Peace. And that was the end of that. 10,000 years later, I'm still writing books for the church because I'm a good boy.
Also, that must mean that either he has taught people how to write in Colchizian, or this dreadnought has the most ridiculous motor skills we've ever seen.
Well, he's described as in this big chamber he's kept in. He's literally writing on the walls with his claws. He's just carving symbols onto the walls with his claws. So I think someone just goes in there and just copies it down or something.
That's still some pretty impressive motor skills.
Oh yeah. Just imagine this big dreadnought. Yeah, and it is a big Contemptor dreadnought as well. So imagine just carrying his little claws, his tiny little paintbrush or pencil, so just tiny little writing. Okay.
See, I was sort of imagining more like, those massive brushes that Chinese calligraphers use.
Oh, yeah. That would be interesting to see it just, big dreadnought pick with a big paintbrush just going I'm writing a book.
Yeah. Even in calligraphy, I still serve.
So, anything else to add about Apocalypse, or are we done with that spoiler section?
Done with that spoiler section. That's the main premise of it. Long story short, Imperium wins the end. Because they always fucking do.
Okay, welcome back people who didn't want to hear about Apocalypse. I'm going to talk about Knights of Macragge now, so feel free to skip ahead again.
Spoilers!
Yes, so this is the Cato Sicarius novel that we all heard about, or Cato Sicarius as his actual name, as people call him Cato Sicarius because it rolls off the tongue faster.
Before you go into detail, does it go into detail why he has such a glorious Tom Selleck mustache?
I assume because he was lost in the warp for 5 years.
So why does he just have the mustache and not the full big beard?
Probably because he grew facial hair, then found a razor that was actually working and wasn't warp infested, and thought, "Hey, this kind of looks cool. I'll just keep it."
Also,
I'd like to imagine that he lost the beard in a battle, in a fight with a demon, and he was like, "Huh, yeah, all right."
A demon that clipped off with its pincers, sheared.
Yeah, exactly.
You shaved me, you fiend!
No, he was shaved, and he's just like, "Wow, I like feeling the breeze on my chin."
The demon was taunting his eyes, saying, "You cannot shave him." It's no, you just shaved him. It's no, you cannot shave him. Shave.
He just maybe he just comes back to that demon, every few weeks, and the demon's like, "The usual, yes, please."
I mean, with the beard, on that artwork, he'd look a bit like Bray Wyatt if he had the beard, to be honest. All he needs is the dreadlocks now.
Too slim a face, too gaunt.
He's doing his coup de grace going, "Yowie, wowie!"
The coup de grace is Finn Balor's move. I
know, but that's Sicarius' strike as well, though.
It is also Sicarius. Oh my god, I'm going wrestling and oh no. Oh, I'm done. Right, I'm going to talk about
Sicarius comes off the top rope. Double foot stomp.
Do you think he waxes it?
Probably.
Right, while we're on the topic of memes, I want to stress the opening address of Sicarius. It's the first speech in little italics on the first page. Nick Kime actually confirmed this for me on Twitter. It's not deliberately a TTS nod, but he does say "I, Cato Sicarius." He does say it. He says he talks about the Primaris Marines and say, "They are your brothers, just as I, Cato Sicarius, am your brother." And I asked Nick Kime about this. It is just unintentionally. It's not a TTS reference. It was completely unintentional, but that is a thing. And as for his character, it's interesting because Nick Kime, I believe, also wrote Damnos and all the books around Damnos.
And Fall of Damnos was the worst book I have ever read. It was so boring.
You read Descent of Angels and you're still breaking on Damnos for it?
Yes! It's like when I saw Knights of Macragge being advertised, it's from the author of Fall of Damnos. I'm like, damn, they really don't want people to buy this.
Well, I bought it anyway. So, this book is set after the ship of Sicarius, I've forgotten its name, gets lost in the warp. It's been 5 years, and they're on the edge of collapse. They've had to seal off entire decks due to vents, lost crew, raving mad, warp-corrupted crew, and so on and so forth. There are riots amongst the serfs. Food is down to weeks. Fuel is barely any better. The only navigator they have is insane. and mutated like hell. Suffice to say, they're in all sorts of trouble. And at the same time, you've got a mix of Primaris and regular Marines, and the Primaris Marines are trying to sort of show that they are worthy of being there. One of them honor duels a veteran sergeant of the regular Marines and defeats him, sort of as a way of proving a point. But they take the decision, we have to get out of the warp no matter where we are, and they do, just thanks to this insane navigator getting away with it, and they drop out over this world, this seemingly feudal world, and I'm not talking feudal imperial world, I'm talking feudal terror. Like, medieval, world, where they don't know what the Imperium is. They don't know what space is. They've never met anyone from beyond their own lands. They ride around on horses, they have spears and archers and one major walled city, and that's about it. And that's where the title Knights of Macragge comes from. Because rather than say, hey, we're from space, we're from another planet, they go, we're from the Southlands, a land called Macragge, and we're knights from the land of Macragge, hence Knights of Macragge.
That's cool.
It's a really clever touch, and this also raises the idea of what would happen if the Imperium turned up on our world. Well, this is an interesting idea of they are seen as strangers from a distant land, and everyone is terrified of them, because that's what they are. They're terrified and distrustful of them, because, well, have you seen a Space Marine stood next to a human? Never mind the fact that they're running out of power for their power armor, because they can't recharge it, because the ship's so low on power. So they've got to walk without using the power in their power armor and stuff. So the only powered thing is the Talisarian Tempest Blade. That's about it. But it turns out, later, they go to fight some orcs, who aren't obviously there because it's orcs. And they're sat on this titanic energy source, which is why they were drawn to this planet when they jumped out the warp. Because it has so much energy that they could use it and get going again. But the humans have no idea it's there. The orcs have just set up round it.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually they squash the orcs, because of course they do. But it is revealed that the planet, the city's Baron's advisor, who is also a foreigner, is actually also an alien. Can you see where this is going yet?
Wait a minute. Keep going.
Bear in mind, we're talking about Carter Sicarius. Carter Sicarius, whose most important incident in terms of novels
Necrons
was the fall
again,
of
isn't it?
Damnos.
Is it?
Yeah, we got Necrons up in here.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So this human is a cryptech in disguise as a human, and it's a chronomancer. And what the chronomancer has done is effectively rewound time to degenerate the Imperial settlers to such a low-tech point that they don't even remember that the Imperium is a thing. Because they wanted to awaken the Tomb World, and because the humans were just crunching over the orcs on the planet that they colonized in short order, they needed to reset the balance by detuning the humans using the temporal stuff so that they could then reawaken their tomb and get on with doing everything, and then their lord can go and conquer the stars or whatever it is the Necrons do. That was the big twist.
That feels needlessly obtuse.
The thing is, it's a really clever twist because it really doesn't hint at it at all. Because you just got this feudal world, and the advisors sort of never really talked about. They're just there. They're never really talked. They're a bit of a Grima Wormtongue sort of thing. They're just there talking. They don't do much.
I'm not saying that it was written poorly. It's just another case of why do that? Like, why that in particular? Like that
because they couldn't get the tomb online.
But how does that get the tomb online better than another?
It gives them time. If you have the humans wipe the orcs and then take over and excavate the entire planet and find the tomb too early and nuke it from orbit, you lose. If you degenerate the war between the humans and orcs to a never-ending stalemate where the humans are clinging on against these roving orc warbands who also have been detected, then you basically buy yourself in almost infinite time to perpetuate the situation and get the tomb online. I think. I'd need to go back over again and double check that is correct, but that to me would be the reason as to why they might do it as the sole awake Necron, is to buy time.
Yeah,
and maybe
okay, yeah, so this is just
and maybe
the
use
one
that
dude.
Titanic energy source to run back the clock on the Necrons as well. Not biotransference run the clock back, but, before they all atrophied and entropied with age, run the clock back so that you get more of them awakened, or it's easier to get them back online by rewinding their own time.
Okay, I gotcha.
Anyway, Space Marines win, lol, because Sicarius is alive in the current timeline, so he has to win, and he does. And the Imperials, so these colonists slowly get their memories back and sort of re-tech up, and the Ultramarines get them set up before they leave. And then the book ends with Agamemnon going up to Calgar and saying, Sicarius is alive, he's back. And Calgar just laughs and is like, of course he is.
I just imagine being like, Sicarius is alive. Oh, for fuck's sake!
No, it was a jovial laugh. It wasn't a bitter laugh. But what's interesting about Sicarius is his character, because it's sort of implied that in the past Sicarius was very much a bit TTS-y, not super high-pitched, my glorious chapter, not like that. I'm more implying sort of glory hunter out for his own advancement and to get himself to the top. But Damnos changed that. It was his sort of anvil that he was forged on. He becomes a lot more serious, a lot more collected, and he can also, and this is sort of implied, he can see sort of the spectre of the Undying, the Necron Lord from Damnos, in his peripheral vision. To the point that he's holding a council with some of the Space Marines. They leave, he sees the Undying in the corner, and he's like, what are you looking at? He just talks to this Necron Lord who's dead, that he killed. It's just like, okay, Sicarius, you've been in the warp too long, mate. Chill.
I feel like if that's all he's doing, then that's a pretty good outcome.
I'm just now imagining it's like, shut up, brain, ghost Necron Lord, you're not real.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is that. If you have any questions that I haven't already tried to answer, fire away. I know, Rem, you're going to read Knights of Macragge, so you'll probably come back at me in a few weeks with it.
I'm liking the idea of, more fish out of war stories with, a space marine on a very primitive planet. I do like that idea. Like, not just like, hey, this is a planet full of cavemen or anything like that, but like, a planet of, the planet Bretonia.
Yeah, and a good third of the book is like that. A good third of the book, like, the first half is them getting out of the warp, and the second half is on this world, and obviously the big twist happens at the end. But there's an interesting thing of some humans, sort of Old Lady Dither's Vault 112 style. Remember, they know. They're Imperials. These are Space Marines. These are Guardsmen. But they're seen as insane for talking about these empires of the stars and are locked away. So, yeah, it's a really interesting setup for a conflict. And the fact that it's then all said, oh, it was all just Necron Chronotech. It doesn't take away from it, but it just sort of is like, oh, I'd like to see them actually try and have to be forced to reveal it to these backwoods citizens of, hey, we're from space, we have massive guns, and this is a gun, by the way, it does this. And just trying to explain it as to what they are and how they work.
Please tell me he was like, in Evil Dead 3, this is my boomstick!
No, by the time the humans don't really... The only people who realise what's going on is the Primaris who gets left behind, and the guardsmen and the serfs who are with him. And actually one of the serfs, one of Sicarius' aides, who sort of looks after the chaplaincy after the chaplain got domed, off screen. He died before the book started. This old woman chooses to stay behind on the planet rather than carry on with Sicarius. So yeah, it's quite a good book. I recommend it. It's an interesting take, and filling in the gaps of, this is what happened to Captain Sicarius when he was lost in the warp, actually works, even though you know that the book must end on Sicarius wins lol, because Sicarius is alive in the current timeline. He's not allowed to die. He can't die. for the sake of the
Yeah,
plot.
it's less about it's less about failure and more about the mystery.
Correct. And it works as that.
That's fine. Yeah.
So, I'm done. Welcome back, spoiler people. Sorry if you've had to skip about 30 minutes of podcast to Rem and I just rambling about books. But here you go.
Yeah, I can't believe CM Punk appeared in that, Knights of Macragge. That was mad.
Yeah, and who would have thought that the big twist as to why Sicarius got lost in the warp was an RK out of nowhere that chucked his ship through the Immaterium for 20 years?
Damn that Viper. Alpha Legion, that's what he is.
Oh, that's reminding me of something. Have you got this month's White Dwarf? August's.
No.
There's the 40k story in there. There's a little 6-page book, and it ends with a guardsman who's been pinned down for so long, and he's saved by these space marines who come in and clean out the enemy, and he kneels before them, and he says thank the Emperor, and then the space marine sort of smiles and says it back, and it's a Chaos Alpha Legionnaire.
Nice.
And I'm just like, yes, that's such a good twist. I like that. It just reminded me of that. Anyway, carry on.
Carry on with what?
Questions, because we've been going for
questions,
80 minutes.
Okay. When the Siege of Terror reaches its conclusion, do you want to read about the fight between Sanguinius and Horus, or would you prefer to see the event left out and see only the aftermath when the Emperor reaches Horus? I want to see the fight. I want to see Sanguinius and Horus throw down.
I want to at least see the prelude to the fight. Even if they decide that because it's such a huge event and they sort of want to leave the mythos of the chink in Horus's armor as an off-screen thing, that did it happen, did it not happen? Because it's a myth that's a carrier that's...
Well, we know it wasn't Sanguinius that did it now, because we all know it was Russ who did it.
Well, exactly, but because they might want to keep the mythos of the fight between Sanguinius and Horus alive. I want to see the build-up, the argument.
Well, I'll tell you what,
sudden
what's going to happen is that it's going to have, they're going to have the big argument, Sanguinius is going to charge, and it's going to do the JoJo cut to be continued, and then next episode comes along. That's what's going to happen.
Oh dear. But yeah, I want to see Sanguinius arrive on the Bridge of the Spirit, see the conversation come argument, see some Justarin charge at him like an idiot and be just chopped in two by the Spear of Telesto. And maybe you skip then to the Emperor's arrival, and maybe you don't show the fight between Sanguinius and Horus if you want to keep the mythos. I'd love to see it, but I also understand you can't have two super titanic boss fights in the same book, and the Emperor-Horus fight, as amazing and epic as it's going to be, isn't going to take up an entire book. Unless they put the aftermath in there as well, in which case they might get away with it. So, I don't know. I'm happy either way.
Fair enough. Question from Michael. Could pre-Heresy Magnus survive an Age of Sigmar?
Yes. He was the most powerful psychic bar the Emperor in the 40k. And 40k psychic powers are probably more ridiculous in some ways than AOS's magic. At least pre-endless spells. Yes, he'd be absolutely fine. Probably.
What is the possibility that the Squats are the secret brewmasters for the Space Wolves?
Low.
I mean, the Squats are known for making good beer, but they make it out of algae.
That's your line.
But then surviving on a death world of Fenris and not being heard of ever.
Yeah, they're probably just living underneath a fang or something, just working beneath, in the depths. They're just farming potatoes, and brewing
so
beer.
the Squats are now demons, are they?
No, they just look like one. They're very red-faced and flustered, from all the hard work they do, because they know people who actually do any fucking work anywhere around there. Because the Space Wolves are too busy lying around, scratching themselves in the arse and burping.
Jesus.
Yeah, we'll stop roasting Space Wolves now.
Wolf, 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 wolf. Anyway. Do you think they'll ever expand on the Blackstone conflict started with Forgebane?
I mean, it's kind of... I think yes, as part of the Psychic Awakening, because I think that will be the Admech plot thread in the Psychic Awakening of, right, we've now got way more Psychers, but that also means way more trouble with the Warp. Ergo, we need more Blackstone to open up more pathways, like the Narcomound Gauntlet, which is held together by Blackstone, if you didn't know. And I think they'll use Blackstone as the mechanic, as this driving thing, or maybe they'll try and harness it and create Blackstone automatons that are like their version of the Sisters of Silence. I don't know.
Fair enough. In Age of Sigmar, it said that squigs can be bred to be used in certain situations, such as massive mounters or mounts. Is it possible to do the same for squigs that reside in 40k? Isn't that basically what they do for squig-offs? They just...
The squig-offs are squig breeds, yes.
And they just feed them a shit ton of formula to make them big and strong and dinosaur-sized.
Something like that. I forget the exact details, but it's something of that order, yes. The only reason that it doesn't get mentioned is because you don't have squig hoppers in 40k, where grots ride squigs.
Yet. I reckon we might get them at some point in the future, just a bunch of Gretchen riding squigs that got little auto guns attached to them or something. That'd be kind of cool,
but
actually.
Then the grots would get to have some fun and get some Dakka and get some kills in instead of the orcs, and the orcs would never allow that.
Yeah, but
the difference is why it's allowed in Sigmar is because the grots are so much more independent from the orcs.
Yeah, but then again, the squigs might just eat the grots, so the orcs would just go and laugh and goes, he got eaten by a Dakka.
True.
Will we ever see a reboot of Warhammer Monthly? I mean, we've had
Remind me what that was again?
The comic series. The monthly comic that had just like the Blood Quest and Demonofuge and Darkblade comics in them. I mean, we had the reboot of Inferno, so we might get one from Warhammer Monthly at some point.
Maybe, but a lot of the comics have gone on to Warhammer Community with spanners, role models.
This isn't like, 4-panel comedy comics. This is like, in-depth, like, full-blown DC-style comics, action and gore. And, if you ever read Demonofuge, that one panel with the Slanesh demon sex scene in it. And this isn't Ian Watson, by the way. This is serious. Like, this is about go to check on a navigator, and the navigator's actually having sex with this demon that's, like, gone under its skin and, like, it's peeling its face away while it's having sex with it. And then, like, what the fuck is this? And then, shooting happens because, hey, it's a fucking demon.
Correct. Please do not go and look this panel up. For those people who ask in the comments, hey, can you put stuff you're talking about on screen? Even if I had the time to edit this video in order to put stuff we were talking about on screen, I still wouldn't put that panel on screen. I do not want this video age restricted. Thank you very much.
Right.
Which is funny, actually, because some of the Wi-Fi I've been having to borrow for my internet use has been in restricted mode, and trying to see what videos do and don't get past restricted mode is quite funny. Because the podcasts get through it, would you believe?
With all the Ian Watson... Ian Watson's fine for all ages, apparently.
Well, last week's episode got through. That's all I can tell you. I was able to watch it on restricted mode.
Bloody hell.
Wait.
I know.
Congratulations, your podcast is not porn.
Yet.
Yeah.
Remleiz.
I mean, how long has it been since we actually did a reading from an Ian Watson novel? Let's be honest.
Episode 50.
Fred, are you familiar with Ian Watson?
No.
How? There was a TTS podcast about it.
Man, do you understand, like, how spotty my knowledge is of 40k?
Let me put it this way for you. Ian Watson was the very first fiction author for 40k to do full-blown novels. And pretty much everything was a drugged-up, porn-obsessed fever dream, let's be honest. Like,
what year was this novel, this first novel?
1989.
That explains it.
1989 to 1993.
If you really want the full details, Alpha Buser and the TTS crew created the If the Emperor
Had a podcast.
podcast.
I remember...
The third episode of that is the Inquisitor novel that we are referring to.
That's like the one bit of TTS I haven't been able to listen to because I want to sit down and like dedicated listen to it, but there's always something else.
I know that feeling.
Yep, that's a mood.
And put it this way, what that episode of the podcast touches up upon does not go into the full insanity that is the later novels. I mean...
And we're not talking about it here because I don't want this video age restricted.
Let's just say it involves a demonette and her tail. I'll leave it at that.
Right. It sort of makes sense when you think about it, though, for the time period, because think about what kind of person is really into wargaming at this point. Like, there is a very... I'd say that, even though you have a stereotypical audience for wargaming now, like, nowadays, it still is a lot broader than it used to be. But this little niche group, it's very incel-y sort of feeling, like hyper nerds that are often the sort of corner of society more so than anything.
Yeah, neckbeards in basements is sort of that stereotype.
Yeah, it's like that stereotype was accurate to a certain extent. And like those novels, not only were they tailor-made for these people, like for this audience, but also that's the kind of person who would be willing to write a novel about this sort of subject.
Also, that first Ian Watson novel, Stanley Kubrick was debating on making it into a movie. I'm not even joking.
What?
The whole, who knows, Ian, this might be my next movie.
Yeah.
That joke, that's based on a real quote.
Fuck.
So, bear in mind, we could have had a timeline where we actually had a 40k movie directed by Stanley Kubrick. Imagine how that would have actually turned out.
I would not be sat here doing this podcast. Let's just say that.
So going back to the questions, how is it possible for there to be multiple Primaris chapters descended from the Raven Guard when the Raven Guard themselves have been double-dipping into their ties after the action of Corax to save the chapter after the drop site massacre? Surely there was next to no gene seed stock left for Call to work with when experimenting.
I mean, that's not to say that there was none left.
No, but at the same time, the Raven Guard genes did get so bad that they had to use that pure stock just to stop aspirants from rejecting the organs, didn't they? So
true, but I feel like obviously those they had to use the pure stock to get new ones, but those ones that were given the pure ones probably created reasonably good ones to send back in the ties to the Mechanicus, I guess. So there probably isn't loads for Cole to work with, or at least there wasn't at the time. But also, Cole's been working on the project for 10,000 years. He's been working on it since the end of the Heresy, so maybe he got a sort of a nudge note from Corax before he disappeared. Maybe Gilliman told Corax, hey, we're going to try and make better Space Marines, and Corax in a hissy fit because I made better Space Marines. And then the Alpha Legion picked it up, said to Cole, hey, I've already had a go at this. You kind of know gene seed, so if you want to get to it before we run out.
Original Marines do not steal. That's what the Raptors were, let's be honest.
New Space Marines TM Corvus Corax.
I saw a little comic, Corax is holding a raptor and says, I made this. Cool goes, you made this? Yes, hold it. I made this. I changed it to Primaris. Right, next question. With how vast the Imperial range has gotten, do you think we need more Xenos models to flesh out the ranges? Yes.
Yes. This is not a debate. The only challenge, though, is because the Imperium has got so many... The difference with the Imperial range is the Imperial range encompasses Sisters, Guard, Death Watch, Space Marines, Blood Angels, Dark Angels, Space Wolves, Militarum Tempestus, Inquisition, Assassinorum, Grey Knights,
Custodes,
Sisters of Silence, and I've nearly got to 15. There's about 15 factions under the banner of Imperials. Now, if you take Xenos, you've got Eldari, Drukhari, Harlequins, Orcs, Tau, Necrons, Tyranids, Genestealer cults. I've got 8, and there's probably at least a couple I'm missing, but rough figures, you've got less Xenos factions to play with by about a factor of 1.5 to 2. So by that logic, the Imperial range should be twice as large as the Xenos range. Which is kind of weird when you think about it.
Then you compare it to the Chaos range.
Yeah. And then you just cry because there are still no Traitor Guard Codex and models.
Or Dark
aside from
Mechanicum.
Or Dark Mech. Yep, Dark Mech too.
Okay, question for the Tau.
Oh no.
What do you think the chances are that the Moor tribes will get more than just a new tyrant?
High. So, for context, this was one of the previews. It was the AOS Open Day. We got a new Ogre Tyrant for the new Gutbusters faction, which is like the new Ogre Kingdoms. And it's an awesome model. Go look it up. Basically, that implies they'll be doing a full reboot of the Ogre's range. I suspect they'll probably update anything that isn't already plastic. Like Scrag the Slaughterer, the Butcher, Yetis, Gorgers, and some other stuff. But a lot of the plastic kits, I think, will stay. Like the Bulls, the Iron Guts, the Lead Belchers might stay. But so, yes, there will be more. I don't know what, but there will be more.
Another question for Michael. You got a lot this week because you weren't here last week, or last episode rather. Is it possible the Tau survivors from the Force Sphere expansion could cause a civil war with the Tau Empire, creating a Tau faction who are xenophobic?
You see, that's one of the plot threads that they could follow with the Psychic Awakening, because it's the fate of the Fourth Sphere is weird. So, the commander's kind of gone. He probably got killed. And a lot of the Fourth Sphere warriors were either re-educated or dispersed among the Fifth Sphere and split up to get rid of that problem. So you have that option of they've been chucked through the warp. Hey, let's make them all Psychers, give Tau Psychers, and that be what they do with them in the Psychic Awakening. Or it could bring out this new influx of mind science and nonsense and Psychers, could ramp up that xenophobia and cause it to spread. So the Fourth Sphere are really interesting, and I think that's what they'll play on in the Psychic Awakening. As to whether they'll do that, I don't know, because more than likely, if that were the case, they'd have just been re-educated for their anger until they no longer felt that anger, because Ethereals are dicks.
Fair enough. Okay. Quite a few ones. Do you think we could see Chaos Primaris soon?
You cut out badly.
Oh, sorry. Do you think we could see Chaos Primaris soon? I reckon we'll get them at some point in the future, but maybe not this edition.
Actually, let's ask sort of a bit more of because we're so invested in the whole Primaris storyline, whereas Fredrik, you know about Primaris, but probably not as much as others. What is your thoughts on Primaris? In terms of them as an entity, the idea of chaosifying them, do you have any thoughts on them? I don't know if you haven't said much during this little Q&A session.
Yeah. No, my sort of modus operandi during this has been absorb information, right? And just sort of pay attention and figure them out. But the Primaris Marines are Marines that I'm not as familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
Give me, actually, you know what? Why don't you answer that a little bit while I poke around a little bit?
Okay. Oh, sure. Right. So, context as to why Chaos Primaris might be a thing. Fabius Bile is interested. Fabius Bile, the sort of primogenitor, the Chaos Space Marine tinkerer creator, the original Call before Call was a thing and Call ruined the whole idea. He's got an interest in Primaris. There is a good chance he'll get one, get its gene seed, start tinkering and create one. So I think we will see them. I don't think we'll see them soon, because we've got to get the new Space Marines out and settled first, and we just got a Chaos Space Marine Codex. But I think when the next Chaos Codex comes out, whether that's a 3.0 or the 9th edition Codex, I think we'll get them in some form. Because we got the Possessed this time, we'll get the Primaris next time.
Yeah,
is my opinion.
I have heard of the Primaris Marines. I do, I do know a little bit about them. What was the question again? Remind me.
Will we see Chaos ones?
We see Chaos Primaris Marines.
Because the idea is that they're made better by Call. They're less susceptible to gene seed flaws, less corruptible, less likely to do a Marine and flip.
Well, I mean, it's kind of I think that's sort of assuming that they wouldn't be corrupted, none would ever be corrupted, is a false assumption. Like, it assumes something about chaos, that chaos is static. But chaos is very much not static. The Primaris Marines, as I understand them, are sort of an evolution out of, like, a greater understanding of chaos, but then chaos just evolves to combat that. Like, that's sort of the horror of 40k, is that everything evolves to counter each other constantly, so there's this perpetual conflict where there's always the threat of some sort of finality, but never any actual finality. And they're struggling against it. I would be surprised if there never were any Primaris Chaos Marines, if only based on, like, the broad themes of 40k.
Okay, then sort of part B, if it becomes a thing, will it be a thing that's just talked about in lore? Or do you think we'll get them as a full, like, range in miniature? Because one Primaris going to Chaos is easy. An entire army of Chaos Primaris is an entirely different kettle of fish, if you'll pardon the Britishism.
I mean, especially considering the, it would take a while. I actually am going to mirror what you said. It's like there's already so much else happening. It's probably going to be a while until we see any. This is me, from sort of an outsider's perspective. There's so much else that they're trying to talk about. Perhaps the one way that I could see it is that the rift, like the existence of the rift, paves a way for that to happen. But it would be way out of left field, and I would be amazed if they weren't advertising it or hinting at it already.
Yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to ask, because obviously Rem and I have been knee-deep in everything, including the original, oh my god, we've got new Space Marines, this is nonsense, this is... we've been knee-deep in that drama to the point we've almost probably become jaded on the whole thing. So getting sort of an outsider's perspective is kind of nice.
So, like, another thing that I kind of wanted to talk about is that the trailer that they had for the Psychic Awakening, the way that they are phrasing it and the rhetoric that they're using is one of unity, which is really strange. Like, this person is like, I have purged human worlds and I am terrified of this. And, like, implying that this is a threat that everyone faces. The theme that really it seems to be pushing, at least, like, under the surface, is unity. It doesn't look so much like human forces are going to be corrupted as much as humans and Xenos might work together in a way that hasn't happened yet. Like we're going to unite against a common enemy, at least for now. The Eldar are probably going to try to, skew this to end in a way that benefits them most of all, but for a while we're going to actually work together.
Because a lot of people have sort of referred to the Indomitus Crusade as the Great Crusade 2.0 Electric Boogaloo Gilliman edition. That's being polite. So this Psychic Awakening kind of, it gives me, some people are saying, oh, this is going to be the Age of Strife 2.0, where psychic activity goes ballistic, but we've already got demons everywhere now, so what the hell is that going to mean? So it's almost, and with the idea of Xenos human alliances, like with the Eldari in particular, you're seeing Eldrad's plan from the Great Crusade. Right, we need to warn humanity. Yeah. Humanity is ready to deal with this crap because they're on the front line of it. Mm-hmm. Are we seeing that again? Except this time, because we've got that established quote-unquote relationship, because if I say the word relationship outside of air quotes, people will say it's a ship, and it's not, between Gilliman and Ivrain.
Yeah.
Because we have that established rapport, then I'll go with, between Gilliman and Ivrain, are we now going to... And Eldrad is a Yennari, in case you didn't know. Are we going to see that all wrapped together to actually see Eldrad's grand scheme actually come to fruition in a way nobody saw coming, because Eldrad just pulls this crap out of his arse all the time?
I mean, it would make sense, right? Like, even it would make sense that he would at least sort of foresee this.
But it's interesting because all the way back, the Cabal's vision for the galaxy in the event of a loyalist victory was the spread of chaos across the galaxy, the warp bleeding into reality, utter anarchy ruling, and the galaxy being ripped apart and overrun by chaos. Rem, please correct me on if that's what the Cabal said or not. That's roughly how I take it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much. Now, what's just happened? We've got a giant feck-off warp rift that's ripped the entire galaxy in half. There are demons on literally every planet, even Terra. Admittedly, most of them are dead now, thanks Imperium. But demons literally everywhere, and now we've got psychers breaking out all over the place, across every species, potentially. Who the heck knows how many we're going to get? So maybe the Cabal was right. And Eldrad's going to have to throw one last roll of the dice. Instead of, okay, let's set humanity up to deal with this, it's, oh, right, here we go. This is the Ranadandra now. We need to deal with this. Imperium, get in here. Tau, get in here. We're going at this Infinity War style. Not Infinity War, Endgame style. F-U Chaos, you're going down or we're going to die trying.
Well, that's kind of one of the funny things, right? Is this psychic awakening is something that is common to every extra chaos being. Like, every society is, seeing psychic happenings. Like, it is a common experience. And common experiences can allow for people that maybe had nothing in common before to start working together. At the very least, that is an in. Assuming that, the Eldar want to work with anyone else. So anyone that isn't serving chaos suddenly has a common experience.
Yeah. Yeah, the biggest thing, going back to Nova, like the biggest thing coming out of Nova for me was the Death faction for AOS, because we got to see the models, we got the name, we got the full reveal. But I'm most intrigued, not excited, intrigued by the Psychic Awakening. What does it set up? What does it mean? What is it going to cause for all the factions and the politics? Because the Drukhari, Comaral got flooded with demons in a disjunction after Yvrain popped up. Admittedly, I think that's now mostly been dealt with, though I'd need to check the 8th edition codex. But Comaral was overrun by demons for a bit because Vector Malice were too busy killing each other to realise there was a feck-off disjunction about to happen.
Yes, this I heard about.
Yeah, so yes, just after Eldrad got off the phone, suddenly demons. So yeah, it's all really interesting, and I can't wait to see what they do with it. But at the same time, this is a subject they're going to have to approach with such a deft and tact hand in order to make it not feel like a convenience to tie people together or rip people apart. It's going to require some really subtle storytelling to make it work, I think. Because if they come at this with plot device after plot device, people are going to start spotting the plot devices and then rip it a new butthole. I'm looking at you, Gathering Storm.
Well, ideally, like, this is, rather than being a plot device, this is, or, in the derogatory sense, it's an inciting incident.
We'll see.
I'm coming at it from that angle of it being an inciting incident, of course.
Oh yeah, I think it's definitely some. You've got one set of views. We sat through the Gathering Storm and I sat through the End Times for Warhammer Fantasy, where stuff got pulled a little bit from nowhere, a lot, like the entire Yvrain plotline. To be completely honest with you, so I don't know. Again, we may be a bit too ingrained and a bit too jaded to see it that way. I don't know.
To be fair, you guys are probably correct.
Maybe. We'll see. Anyway, that killed some time, Rem. Any more questions before we wrap up?
We have a lot of questions, but we're not going to have time for every single one, so we probably have time for maybe one or two more at the most.
Yeah, I'll try not to get us too distracted this time.
That's all right. Okay. Does Draconian serve Abaddon for the sake of an insurance by the Chaos Gods, seeing as they have a dark destiny for him? Would it be the case for Draconian to ensure it's their victory rather than Abaddon's?
Draconian is more powerful than Abaddon. The end.
Get wrecked, nerd.
Dratnian was created on the first murder and dueled the Emperor himself to a standstill.
First human murder.
Okay, sorry, I'll rephrase, yes. But still, dueled the Emperor to a standstill to the point that the only way the Emperor could defeat it, and I use that in air quotes, was to stuff it in a custodian and tell the custodian to go run off. That was literally all the Emperor could do against Dratnian. So Dratnian is working with Abaddon because it wants to. If it wanted to kill Abaddon, it would, if it could find a better champion to be wielded by. But because it's trapped in a sword, it can't just get up and waddle around, as hilarious as that would be. It needs someone to carry it so it can get its vengeance on the Emperor and kill him.
I just now have this image of Dratnian sprouting legs and just going like, noot, noot, like Pingu.
A bit top heavy.
It's like, I am the end of empires. Noot, noot.
Oh dear.
Someone please draw that.
No.
Yes.
Dear God.
Oh god, they're going to change What's Remleiz's current thing on his desk? Oh, Remleiz has nothing on his desk. Sleep is going to draw that now. A little Dratnian on legs is going to be Remleiz's thing on the desk.
Okay, final question for this episode that we'll be doing. Do you think the Imperium could ever try to reverse engineer the Cadian pylons and use a similar device to fix the warp tear caused by Magnus in the Webway?
This assumes that the warp and the Webway work the same way.
But there was a warp tear in the Webway, is the point, I think.
That is true, but at that point, the only way they'd know if... Because at the minute, they have the Narcommand Gauntlet, which is two basically giant piles of blackstone pylons that keep a very small sliver of stable warp corridor open. Not even close it, just a stable warp corridor using pylons and pylons and pylons. The other problem is if you use Blackstone in its warp nullification mode, where do you have to put it to close the rift? Golden Throne. What does that do? Potentially affect the Emperor's psychic power. It might not really, but the Mechanicus might fear that. Ergo, if that weakens the Emperor's power, what does that do? Weakens the Astronomicon. What does that do? Screw the Imperium over all over again. It's almost too risky. So they might, but they wouldn't. They might risk weakening the Astronomicon by doing so, at which point, well, the entire Imperium is boned. So...
Fair enough. Given the time, I'm going to leave it there for the questions for this episode.
Yep, that's fair. Apologies that we won't have got to them all, and apologies for my audio quality also all episode, because I'm not on my microphone. So if you have any questions for next time, just leave them in the comments with the word question. I don't think we haven't got an author guest next time, so we don't need to announce that ahead of time. So yeah, just leave your questions for us in the comments if you like, and we'll try and get around to answering a few more in the next episode. Excuse me. So, before we close, is there any further points, promos, comments?
Thank you for enduring my ignorance.
Believe me, you'd be surprised how little you've come across as ignorant.
Really?
No, not at all. As much as you sat quiet through the Q&A, the questions weren't aimed at you, so why would you chip in? And it's really great for us to talk to people who maybe haven't seen the hobby through the same lens as we do, of being so entrenched in the lore that we know many, if not all, details that are necessary, and are so used to seeing plot devices and twists and Deus Ex Machinas that they don't mean the same thing. And getting that outsider perspective, because I was talking to some friends in the bar before I got the train home, and I was telling them about the Necrons and the Necron retcon, where they got changed from enslaved killbots to killbots who control their own destiny and also aren't always killbots. And sometimes that enthusiasm of people who know a little bit and want to learn more, they're some of the best people to talk to as a hobbyist, because they don't have that same jadedness that some of the old hands do.
Yeah, I enjoy the setting quite a bit, and I really like playing the tabletop. Randolph Carter is teaching me how to play.
Do you have an army yet? And is it Eldar?
Actually, Tyrannid. I have a small set of Tyrannids, but he's teaching me on Tabletop Simulator, but I also am strongly considering finishing putting together all of my miniatures and painting them. It's something that I just never quite got around to doing, but it's...
Painting streams are the best way to do it. Just live stream while you paint, you get so much done.
Yeah, boy. And I'm sure I'll get plenty of tips from people that are watching, too. I'm sure I could be like, hi, the Eldrad voice guy is painting. Help.
Eldrad. Yeah, just get Eldrad and do a painting stream of painting Eldrad and just watch the views roll in.
Would that count as playing with yourself?
Yes, absolutely. No, I'm just rubbing a brush lightly over my body.
Stop it.
No, I typically don't get terribly invested in lore for its own sake, right? Because I'm usually more interested in stories that are told within a setting. But the setting of 40K is nothing but stories. It's not, here are the way things are. It's like, here are things that have happened. Like, the lore of 40K is like a series of fables.
Yeah, the galaxy is a sandbox and the stories are written in it.
Yeah, it's like the way that things aren't nearly so important in 40K as the things that have happened. And that's what I think draws me to it more than anything. It's like, it's not, here is this character and this is how they are. It's, here's what this character has done. Isn't this wild?
Yeah.
That's my draw.
I think that's fair. I get that. Makes a lot of sense. So, is there anything else that anyone needs to add, or can I close the show?
I'm good.
I'll take the tumbleweed as I'll close the show.
Dead air.
So that, everybody, has been episode 78 of Adeptus Podcastus, and we do hope you have enjoyed it. Hopefully you've all recovered from my absence and have got used to me talking, because I've talked far too much in this episode. So I've made up for my absence last time by talking too much. And apologies for my audio quality. As I said, I don't have my microphone with me, so I have no idea how peaky and echoey the sound quality is going to be. But I'll see what I can do and clean up in editing. Thank you very much to Fredrik for joining us and putting up with our big, long, talky segments, because good God,
I'm listening. I'm absorbing information.
That's very, very fair. And thank you to Rem and to Narina for holding down the show while I was away. I appreciate that.
You're still singing the rest of that bloody song, though.
Not happening. That is the new "You're going to do something." No, I'm not. That is the new one. It used to be Alexis' intro. It's now this. So, anyway, thank you very much for watching episode 78 of Adeptus Podcastus. This has been Tactica Imperialis.
This has been Remleiz from 40K Theories.
I've been Fredrik Knudsen from Down the Rabbit Hole.
And we will see you all again. Bye for now.